Caitlin Clark's first day in the European League was one of those moments when fans don't really know what they're in for, but deep down, they know they're about to see something special. For WNBA fans, it was like watching your favorite artist drop a surprise album in another genre. They might not know what to expect, but they're all eyes and ears. Clark, who had taken the WNBA by storm with her gravity-defying three-pointers and court vision sharp enough to slice bread, decided to try her hand at European hoops, a move that had even the most seasoned basketball pundits buzzing. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. The build-up to this debut was like waiting for a movie that everybody knew was going to be a blockbuster. Clark's entry into the European League wasn't just about a player switching teams or leagues. It was about a player known for rewriting scripts now picking up a new playbook entirely. With her every move under a microscope, there was a sense that anything could happen, and that anything could mean highlights or head-shaking moments. When Clark stepped onto the hardwood, there was that unmistakable look in her eye. It wasn't a nervous stare or the wide-eyed excitement of someone new to the scene. It was the determined look of a player who knew she had to prove she belonged, even though most folks back in the States would have said she already did. The venue had that particular energy, something in the air, maybe anticipation mixed with a little bit of nervous laughter. Fans were probably trying to act cool while checking their phones and making sure they were recording just in case Clark did something only Clark could do. The first whistle blew, and it was go time. For those familiar with European basketball, the differences from the WNBA are subtle but crucial. The pace isn't exactly slower, but there's a deliberate rhythm to it, like a jazz ensemble compared to a rock band. Clark seemed to get it right away, taking her time during the first few possessions, almost like she was listening to a song for the first time before jumping into the chorus. Her opponents, however, weren't waiting around for her to get the beat. Right from the jump, defenders were all over her. And not the kind of defense where they're trying to be tough to send a message. No, this was please don't embarrass me defense. These European guards had seen the tapes, watched her pull up from Steph Curry range without a second thought. They had their reputations on the line too, after all. But Clark in her Clark way wasn't intimidated or frustrated. If anything, she seemed to be having fun with it, throwing some no-look passes just to get a feel for how her new teammates handled things. But all the anticipation and drama came to a head in one particular moment. Midway through the first quarter, she got the ball at the top of the key, gave a slight fake like she was going to pass it off, and then boom, pulled up for a deep three. It's the kind of shot where the whole crowd collectively holds their breath, and when the ball swishes through the net, there's this delayed eruption. It was like everybody in the arena just got hit by a delayed punchline, and suddenly they're all laughing in disbelief. In that moment, Caitlin Clark wasn't just playing basketball. She was delivering a punchline nobody saw coming. Yet, it wasn't all easy-breezy. Clark's first day wasn't some fantasy where everything clicked right away. In fact, there were several plays where she overestimated her teammates' speed or misjudged the defense's timing. It's like she was trying to speak a new language and didn't quite have all the vocabulary down yet. But even in those moments, there was something oddly reassuring about seeing one of the game's biggest stars get a little dose of reality. Fans could relate, whether they were seasoned hoopers or weekend warriors. Everybody's had that moment of trying to keep up with the flow of a new game or a new set of rules. Despite a few hiccups, Clark's charm in her game is how she never seems rattled. The way she laughed off some of those misfires was almost as entertaining as the highlights. There's something refreshing about a player who can take a mistake and shrug it off without acting like it's the end of the world. Some players might throw their arms up or mutter under their breath, but Clark seemed to have this uncanny ability to chuckle at herself. Maybe she had her own mental highlight reel running in her head, one where every miscue is just the setup for a bigger, better play down the line. This first-day adventure wasn't just Clark adjusting to a new style. It was also about the WNBA fans adjusting to seeing her in a different setting. And that adjustment came with a lot of emotions. Some fans felt like proud parents watching their kid go off to college, knowing that she was going to do great things but also secretly hoping she wouldn't change too much. Others were worried. Would this new environment mess with the mechanics that made her such a star in the States? Still, most were just thrilled to have more Clark to watch, even if it meant a few bleary-eyed mornings for those streaming the games live back home. By the second half, the nerves and excitement started to settle into something resembling normalcy. Clark seemed more comfortable, both with her new teammates and the flow of the game. She wasn't dominating like she might in a WNBA game, but she wasn't trying to either. Instead, it looked like she was methodically figuring things out, picking and choosing her spots. A couple of times, she dished out passes that seemed like duds, until, of course, they led to easy layups. It was like she saw the game 2 or 3 steps ahead, even if the rest of us only saw it one step at a time. But it wasn't all about assists and deep threes. One of the standout moments came late in the game when Clark drove hard to the basket and took a nasty foul. She hit the ground, and there was that collective wince from the crowd, the kind that says, "Is she okay?" But she popped right back up with that familiar grin, dusting herself off as if to say, "Really? Is that all you got?" It's that kind of resilience that's earned her so much admiration back in the States, and it seemed like the European fans were getting a taste of it too. As the clock wound down, there was a certain poetic symmetry to Clark's performance. She finished with solid numbers. Not the kind that would set Twitter on fire, but respectable enough to show she belonged. More importantly, though, she had moments that felt like they were lifted right out of a highlight reel, the kind of plays where you don't just remember the score, you remember the feeling. The arena, which had been buzzing with anticipation at the start, now had a different energy, something between relief and satisfaction, like everybody had just witnessed something important, even if they couldn't quite put it into words yet. For Clark, it was a first step into a new chapter, and while the book is far from finished, the introduction was enough to keep everyone hooked. The fact that she didn't dominate from start to finish only made things more interesting. It was clear she was still learning, still adjusting, still figuring out the nuances of this new league. But if there's one thing Caitlin Clark has shown throughout her career, it's that she's not afraid of a challenge. She seems to embrace the struggle, almost welcoming the opportunity to stumble a bit before she gets it right. In the days leading up to her debut, there were endless debates and hot takes. Some people were convinced Clark would revolutionize the European League, while others thought she'd struggle to adapt. Both sides were probably a little disappointed and a little satisfied at the same time. Her debut wasn't a fairy tale or a tragedy. It was the first chapter of what promises to be a really intriguing story. And while the game ended and the final buzzer rang, there was still this lingering feeling, almost like the crowd wasn't quite ready to leave. Maybe they were hoping Clark would stick around for an encore, or maybe they just wanted to soak in the moment a little longer. Because in a way, it felt like they had witnessed the beginning of something, even if they didn't know exactly what it was yet. As she walked off the court, Clark had that look of someone who wasn't done, who had a mental checklist and was already thinking about what to do differently next time. It's that relentless curiosity and drive that separates great players from the rest. She didn't look defeated, and she didn't look too satisfied either. It was that middle ground, content but never complacent. Caitlin Clark's first day in the European League wasn't an instant triumph, but it was a start, and sometimes a good start is better than a great finish. For the WNBA fans back home, it was an invitation to keep watching, to stay tuned, to see how this experiment unfolds. And for European basketball fans, it was an introduction to a player who doesn't just play the game. She interprets it in a way that leaves everybody wanting more. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.